Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This is Friggen Good Politics with Greg and Derek. We are diving into the Ontario election. We're having a quick pickup game here. The election called on officially, was it yesterday?
Today.
Yeah, yesterday. Well, technically today began. The actual campaign began today. So we wanted to dive in, talk about some of the do's and don'ts, or at least some of take a look at how each party leader and how each party has started off this campaign so far. So, Derek, did you have any quick thoughts off the top here?
I just, we want to do a quick episode here, even though we just launched one and we said we only do it semi-weekly. But this is just interesting how they're positioning themselves. Ontario election's a big deal, and we're not involved in this one from a professional level. So it's great we can actually comment on it without having to worry about client issues and giving away secrets. So we just get to be great commentators in this election, which will be fun.
We're like, it's the armchair quarterbacking of political campaigns.
That's right. That's right.
So we're going to dive head first into some polling data. Abacus Data, thank you to them. They put out some nice polling data right off the hop here. And we see the Ontario PCs are leading by 23, which is crazy. Like, it's just such a huge lead. Especially when you consider where Doug Ford kind of began his political career. Like when he took over from Wynne, he started on a high, but it quickly dipped down. But then he kind of oopsie daisied himself through COVID and regained the hearts and minds of a lot of Canadians. And I think he's kind of oopsie daisying himself through the tariff war, positioning himself, as we talked about on the first episode there, very well to be sort of the Captain Canada, Team Canada guy. Yeah. And I think that's captured here in these polling numbers where we've seen that little boost from 43 to 47. And we've just seen that, like the OLP, like a kind of a slow decline there. Same kind of thing with the ONDP there. They've not done anything to position themselves as alternatives. And it's always funny to me because when you look at some of the polling companies like Angus Reid do the preferred or the popularity of the various premiers polling, and Doug's usually always on the bottom. Like, it's like they'll ask, like, do you want a new premier of Ontario? Like 80% saying yes. And then when they ask, who are you going to vote for? Well, PC by 50. Like there's so it's funny, but it goes to show how unprepared and ineffective, I should say, the Liberal and NDP and Ontario parties have been in positioning themselves as alternatives to Doug Ford.
It's actually similar to what happened with Justin Trudeau, who won 2 elections by losing the popular vote, but people didn't see that there was an alternative. They didn't do enough to differentiate themselves and build trust. I talk a lot about in presentations on your job as a leader is to build connections and establish trust. And if you're not doing that online, in person, through policy, through getting good branding and feeling out there, you're not going to be successful in politics or business or anything else. So great lead for Doug Ford here. And I think it's fascinating how they're positioning themselves on day one. So if you don't mind, if I can share, Greg, I wanted to
sure.
These ads, we were talking about it, and I thought it was quite fascinating how quickly the Ontario PCs were able to get this ad up. Now, I guess they knew they were going to go fairly quickly compared to the other parties. But
yeah, they have that leg. They had that leg up for themselves because they knew when they were pulling the trigger.
That's right. So let's take a watch here. And obviously, if you're just on audio, all you can do is listen. But here you go.
We all have things we
can you hear that now?
Yeah.
Worry about.
Okay, so here it is. Here's the Doug Ford ad that they will spend a small fortune on, I'm sure, to make sure Ontario people can see this. And if you're listening to audio, obviously you can't see what's on screen here, but it's mostly just B-roll of Doug Ford in his car and talking to people and shaking hands with workers. So here you go, folks. Take a listen.
We all have things we worry about. But when we know trouble is headed our way, we need a fighter. Someone who protects us, our jobs, and our families.
Premier Doug Ford.
That's Premier Doug Ford. When Ottawa descended into chaos, he stood up for us.
Now taking Trump on tonight, Ontario Premier Doug Ford.
The next 4 years won't be easy. There's big decisions ahead, and there's only one leader to protect Ontario. That's Premier Doug Ford.
I love that they did the Last Supper picture that they captured there a while ago. Like, yeah, it's put it in the Louvre, hang it in the Louvre, gang. So good.
That's good. That's good. So they're positioning. This is all about the Trump tariff threat, and that's why they decided to call the election. And then their slogan for this campaign is "Protect Ontario." So I'm pretty sure their ballot question is going to be Doug Ford will protect Ontario, and the other parties won't. They're too weak.
Yeah.
They have no experience doing it, and I need a mandate to fight for you long term. Even the music at the end, they have this cool little thing that says, "Who's gonna fight for you?" Listen to this at the end.
It rocked.
Premier Doug Ford. We all.
It's pretty good, right? Like,
it reminds me of Jason Kenney's "Strong and Free" from 2018. That was a banger, low key.
That was a good one. Yeah. I like when political parties create their own music for this. I don't know if they grabbed this from somewhere or whatnot, but
yeah, I have no idea.
It's well done. So obviously they've thought about this and executed on it very quickly. So great work to the Ontario PC team doing this as quickly and as professionally as they have. So I think this positions them very well in this campaign. I feel like if we can use the sports analogy, it's like scoring the first goal in a hockey game. Everybody wants to score the first goal. Doesn't mean the game's over.
No.
But this is a very good start. Get the first goal, and we can. What are your comments on it before we do the other ones there, Greg?
Yeah, I was going to say, look, I won't reshare the screen, but that the same polling that Abacus did asked Ontarians what were their top issues, and by and large, the number one is reducing the cost of living. And if you're a political party and you see that, the PCs know that they, as the PC party, are the best positioned among the public to deal with cost of living issues, and so they've tied the election issue to the cost of living issue vis-a-vis tariffs. It was a no-brainer layup for them. Top shelf, bar down, easy win for them, at least right off the hop. As you say, it's just day one, so anything can change. But it was a great way for them to capture that momentum and capture the vibes day one. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, I think that the principle is political leaders or anyone really in business, you want to catch a wave that's happening. So the wave right now is the Trump tariff threat and this Team Canada approach that Doug Ford has been championing. And not everyone agrees with it, but it's worked well for him politically. And it doesn't seem like Bonnie Crombie or Marit Stiles or the other ones are up to the task. But let's look at them right now. Let's look at Bonnie
let's
Crombie,
go take a look.
Yeah, so here's her feed. And so on day one of the campaign here, she really just has a state. Oh, no, sorry, this is wrong statement. Here it is. So if you can't see it on the screen here, I'll read it to you. Doug Ford's Ontario has failed you. He's wasting $750 million on an early election instead of using it rather to fix our broken healthcare system and make your life more affordable. As Premier, I'll deliver more for you. That's our slogan. Remember that. By guaranteeing you'll have a family doctor, cutting taxes on your paycheck, and home heating and building homes you can afford. This election, the choice is clear. Another 4 years of Doug Ford's Ontario or change that will get more for you. Bonnie Crombie. So that's what she's got going on. And, pretty much leading up to this, she's just saying, hey, Doug Ford is putting his job ahead of your job. And this is costing a lot of money, $175 million. He should use that to fix healthcare. So, a decent way for her to start off. But like we said in our podcast, I think this goes away pretty fast. And the issue becomes who's the best choice. And so it's an okay way to start, but this more for you slogan, what does that mean? Any ideas?
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. Like, it's not abysmal or something like that.
No,
but it's too vague. I think it's a bit too vague. The other thing is, like, it's a graphic. I don't feel that she feels jazzed up. It's sort of this like, oh gosh, we're going to the polls. Like, it doesn't really feel like a political leader making the statement. It feels almost like someone like us, like a political commentator making the statement. I don't feel that she's excited to become premier. It just feels more like she's mad at Doug Ford.
That's actually a good point. There's no vision here really.
Yeah.
Like, I guess she's saying, hey, I'm going to cut your taxes and build homes and whatever. But like, everyone's sort of saying that, right? So she has to say something different. Like with Doug Ford, he has this unique proposition where it's like, I'm going to protect you from Trump. There's nothing about that here. And so I think that's the issue of the day. Is the problem is that's what's hot right now. That's the wave. Doug Ford's catching up. Bonnie Crombie is not. I don't think this puts her in. I think it's fine. Again, I think it's fine. It's not abysmal. It just doesn't get her ahead at this point.
No,
it's not a strong contrast. In politics, a political mentor of mine named Reg Downs, he always used to say this. Brad Wall's key guy for many years, and Scott Most today it's the ABCs of political messaging. Always be comparing. So you have to compare what's now to what could be. and or what was and what is now and how it's way better. So in this case, she's, there's a little bit of contrast in there about Doug Ford's Ontario, but some people think that's a fine Ontario.
Yeah.
And what is, so it's like, it's very vague. 4 years of Doug Ford's Ontario or change that will get more for you. Doesn't really have that punch.
Yeah, one and change that will get more for you, as you had to you stumbled through it there a little bit, not because you're a bad speaker, but because it's a kind of a clunky statement, like clause on the end of that sentence. Like, I got to think about what I'm going to say before I say that line. So it's just, I
kind of tripped on the red line there, if you will.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
It's actually funny. I read this 3 times before this, and I stumbled on it each time because it is a weird turn of phrase. Like, it doesn't flow off your tongue. Like, protect Ontario. That's good.
Yeah, simple.
Or it's like, we're gonna get more for you.
Change that will get more for you. That's clunky.
It doesn't roll off the tongue, does it?
No.
That's
not you're not pushing the envelope. You're not finishing your checks with that.
No. Not a huge fan. Let's go to Marit Stiles here.
Let's see what Marit had.
So Marit,
at least she had a video.
Yeah, at least there's a nice video here. So let's watch the video.
I've spent my entire life fighting for working people and winning. Now I'm running to be your premier, to build homes, hire doctors, fix schools, and make life more affordable. Look, after 7 years of Doug Ford, life's harder for everyone. Well, except for all those rich friends of his that he makes those deals with. With everything that's at stake, we need new ideas. I'm Marit Stiles, leader of the Ontario NDP, and in this fight, I'm on your side.
Okay, so Marit Stiles, she is on your side.
Yeah,
that's her slogan. Not bad. Again, not abysmal. It's
significant improvement on Bonnie's just graphic, way better in terms of presentation.
Yes, it like, obviously it's very important to get something visual out right away rather than kind of a lame graphic. So I think you get points for that. It sounds like they have the exact same message of make life more affordable, build homes, all that stuff. So that's pretty much the exact same message. The fight for you is a little more attractive to the issues of the day. Like, it's more attached there. Again, I don't see a whole bunch of strong contrast other than Doug Ford helps his rich friends out, which I feel like every NDP says that. Like, Jagmeet Singh is always about all the rich friends, which is just so funny because he's like a rich friend of himself.
Yeah, the Maserati Marxist or whatever it was they called him.
I have no idea what the NDP does for messaging nowadays. It just seems lost. Their best messaging is always standing up for workers and finding ways to do that.
But even then, like in Ontario, they lost a huge chunk of that working vote in the last election. They Monty McNaughton, the oh my gosh, labor minister at the time, destroyed them on that file. And they seemingly haven't got it back.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. So I don't know where she's going to take this. Like, on your side is good, but what am I really going to get out of this? She also said, like, Doug Ford quit on Ontario, so I'm here to apply for his job. Well, I don't think the public are buying that he quit on Ontario. I think he's saying, I want to fight for the next 4 years for you. So it's like, that's not a great contrast. So, I don't mind this 7 years of failure, corruption, and bad deals. You deserve a better government. Also, this is my beef with left-wing parties. Stop saying better or more as your slogans. Nobody knows what it means. It doesn't matter. Like, everyone says we're going to do better. You have to have something more concrete and specific than that.
Tell me what you're going to do.
Yeah, like it's I see it all the time, and I'm like, it's just weak, flaccid messaging is what it is. And it drives me crazy. So it's kind of like when businesses, they just use like pablum to advocate, and they don't say anything real. It's like it's just like the placeholder text that ChatGPT would fill in for you. It's like, it's like, going to get better for you somehow.
Yeah, it's corporate office slop that like no one really actually believes in or cares about.
Yeah. So I think Marit Stiles better than Crombie on day one here. It's like, it's a little stronger of a contrast. I think they're going to split votes like crazy with the Liberals. Yeah, it's the same message. Really,
it's fascinating how, like, at the federal level, the Liberal vote, especially in Toronto, super efficient. Like, one of the most efficient votes that you'll find. But it's the reverse provincially. At least it has been recently. Like, the Libs are at what on this polling? They were at 24%. They'll be lucky to get 5 or 6 seats on 24% because it's just spread out so poorly. Whereas the NDP's at what, 19%, and they'll probably end up with, like, I don't know, 15 maybe if they're lucky. So yeah, it's really bad.
This is actually important to explain to people that don't know. Most political people get this, but in our system, we have the first past the post voting structure. So it's whoever gets the most votes wins. So you could have 20 some percent, like you're talking about the Liberals, and win very few seats because you have to get more votes than everyone else. And so getting 20% isn't good enough in a riding. But getting 40% means you typically win.
Oh yeah, yeah, and in the first past the post, or in our Westminster system, we don't have one election. We have whatever is in Ontario, 108. There's 108 ridings, so there's technically 108 elections. Yeah,
that's right. So yeah, a little bit different, but important to explain to people. Let's look at Mike here, Mike Schreiner from the Green Party. He has a little bit of a video here. It is very, very poorly produced, I would say, and their thing is putting profits over people. Let's watch.
Ontario Greens are putting people before profits every day. We don't work for big corporations and billionaires like Doug Ford. We work for you. We are fighting for more homes, better health care, a fairer Ontario. On February 27th, vote Green.
Vote Green, people over profits. Again, the same stinking message.
Yeah.
This is what drives me crazy. It's like better healthcare, more affordability, people over profits. So like Marit Stiles did the same thing where it's like Doug Ford and his rich friends are very evil, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I know some people buy that, but it's mostly your own voters. So it's like, I feel the Green Party, the Liberals, and the NDP are fighting over the same voters here.
Yeah.
And winning in politics means you have to build a coalition of people to get you past everyone else.
Yes.
And so their coalition just doesn't seem big enough because, maybe combined they have 40% of the vote, but they're all splitting with one another. So how are they supposed to capture votes from the PCs? That doesn't seem like they're doing that right now with these messages.
No. Well, and as you mentioned about Bonnie, the other two, none of them mentioned Trump, the primary enemy of this election. Like Doug Ford is positioning this election as a fighting Donald Trump election, and none of the other leaders of these parties even thought to mention it. It was just against Doug Ford, which is, again, you either position yourself as the alternative to fight Donald Trump, or you find something else to talk about.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Greg. Like, I think in good storytelling, there's always a villain. Like, if you're watching any sort of movie that follows the hero's journey, which is most of them in Hollywood, there is always a hero and there's a villain and there's a guide. And so the hero is typically in politics, the people, the citizens. Correct. The villain is whoever you make it out to be, maybe your political opponent. In this case, Doug Ford's made it Donald Trump. Everyone else is trying to make the villain Doug Ford. But I think most Ontarians, and again, you're the expert in Ontario because you live there, but I don't think they're seeing Doug Ford as the enemy here, right? Or the villain.
Oh, gosh,
I think they're seeing Trump as the villain. So I think if these other parties, the left-wing parties here, were being a little more smart about this, they would do a contrast with Doug Ford and Trump and just basically, he's not the guy to fight for us. He's not, I'm actually the one because I actually care about you somehow. I don't know how they would do that because I think Doug Ford sort of owns that space so much better than them.
Oh yeah. Well, and as I said before, he owns or at least the PC party brand owns the finances argument. So you've got three left-wing parties all fighting each other over who's going to better manage the finances when none of them are seen as the alternative or as a good steward of the finances on that ballot question, which I don't know how you correct for that. It's kind of as Brad Wall mentioned in our original podcast, you talk like a lot of politics is just kind of good luck. And in this case, they've got bad luck. They're the left-wing parties who are seen not as good stewards of money. So
yeah, I think they do score some points on healthcare for sure.
They do, yes, and housing.
Doug Ford is not trying to make this election about healthcare because most incumbent governments in Canada have a terrible record on healthcare because healthcare is really hard to manage after COVID and all the burnout and all the things. I know you wanted to go to the Bonnie Crombie hat thing that she's got here. I'll play this clip for everybody. It's very short. And she has a hat on, if you can't see it, that says, "Real leaders fix healthcare." And she says, "More doctors for you." It's her promise to get a new doctor for everyone. Is that, okay, she made some sort of...
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, let's just hear what she said here.
You can't slap a label on a hat and pretend you're a leader. Real leaders fix healthcare. Real leaders work, and they are on the job, not gallivanting around the province.
And then it just kind of cuts off. So again, I don't know what's going on there. You have this silly looking hat that's pink, and like Doug Ford's hat made sense, but that like she's basically trying to contrast something that's on his turf that he sort of won on already and says he sucks. He shouldn't wear Team Canada hats, and I'm going to wear my own hat. But you shouldn't wear hats. But I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah, it was like, you remember that George Costanza thing where he thinks up the comeback like 3 days later?
Right.
It felt like that. But even then, like, okay, Bonnie, you want to contrast your hat with his hat. His hat was Canada's not for sale. Okay, then you need to parody that, not real leaders fix healthcare. Like, what? That's the most boring, lame, like corporate slop I've ever heard. Like, no one does not roll off the tongue. It doesn't stick in your head. It's not a rallying cry. You could have, maybe if you were like, if I was advising her, I would have said something like, okay, how about we say something like Ontario healthcare not for sale to contrast Canada not for sale and Doug's hat, like something like that better rides the wave of the momentum of his hat. Yeah, it was just bad. Oh,
I still don't like the idea of criticizing someone wearing a hat with a slogan on it by wearing a hat with a slogan on it to make a point.
Like, oh gosh,
I'm like, oh, okay, great. So, what she's trying to do here is she's trying to make the election about healthcare. Yeah. And she's trying to use some sort of interesting stunt to get people's attention. So, points for that, because I get where she's trying to go there. So again, we're trying to explain what's behind the sscenes here. I just think it's not a very good play. I think they tried to, spring somebody on a breakaway and went the other way, or it just didn't work at all for them. They fumbled through the neutral zone and it went, Doug Ford almost gets because you almost like want to contrast Doug Ford's ad to that sort of embarrassing video with the hat on. It's like, I think most Ontarians are going to be like, yeah, I'm going to vote for that guy.
Yeah. You can barely even see her too. Like the video's blurry. It's cold.
Yeah. And it kind of cuts off awkwardly and whatnot. So I'm like, if you're doing digital at the start of a campaign, like it's got to be really sharp and good. Like, like that's where the NDP actually did a better job. Like Marit Stiles.
Correct. Yeah.
Her stuff is clean and nice. I thought it was well done. Crombie's the graphic design is horrible. Like it's just like an ugly gradient. And messaging is lame. So, the Liberal Party should be doing much better in Ontario than they are. But I think, actually, this is the other important thing to talk about, and we can probably end on this, is they're always trying to make it about the leader in this case, because 80% of people vote for the leader and the party. Yeah. And some people say it's even higher for the leader. So most of the time, like the local candidate can't really influence the election very much at all. It's all based on the leader. Now, a really strong star candidate can influence the vote in election by 5 to 15%, but that's like tops. It's still all like, so even that Ontario PC election, they don't mention Ontario PCs. It's all Doug Ford because he's sort of their guy. And so when you contrast leaders, like people vote for leaders mainly, and then some people are always just going to vote Liberal or PC or NDP because just who they are, they don't care who the leader is. But at the end of the day, it's like if the leader's no good, and I think Bonnie Crombie just, I don't know, she's just not there. Her team's not there. I think it's going to be tough for her in this election unless they can pick it up.
Yep. Well, and again, she never bothered getting a seat in the legislature. She's running now. I'm in Mississauga, which makes sense. That's where she's from. But she didn't have a seat until then. So she wasn't getting those clips, like we said in the podcast. She wasn't getting that media attention. And Marit, she was acclaimed as the leader. She never developed any headwinds for herself. She's just kind of been sitting there. And frankly, the Ontario Liberal brand is still so damaged from Wynne, and the Ontario NDP brand is still so damaged from Bob Rae, which is like ancient history by now. But that's how poorly they've got a lot of work to do to build their brand back up, which they just haven't done.
Yeah, that's right. Well, if there's any indication from day one, it's that Doug Ford had the momentum going in, still has the momentum, probably scored the first goal in the game. NDP probably off to a better start. Liberals off to a poor start, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
game's not over for sure. Long time to go, but it'll be an interesting month to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how the debate goes. That'll be an interesting day. I always look forward to the debate. I'm a political nerd like that.
Yeah, debates, like they used to shift elections quite a bit. They don't a lot anymore, but I have seen debates change things recently. Like if you think Donald Trump almost lost the election by having a poor debate against Kamala, but he recovered. And then in the Alberta election, I think Danielle Smith won that election for a couple of reasons, but her debate was a big factor.
Absolutely. Yeah.
People really liked her performance there. She had really strong vision and strong pushback to Rich Notley. And Notley, I think Notley performed well in that debate. If people remember that, she was too negative in it. She was quite mean sounding the whole time. And people are like, oh, Danielle Smith, she actually maybe is pretty good for the province. Like she kind of gets us and what's going on and what we feel and ends up losing because of a poor performance. So, maybe we have to do another episode after debate, or if something else comes up, we'll do a quick mini one because it's fun and we're talking about it anyways internally. So we'll just turn on the camera and give you guys an episode.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. You made it to the end of our pickup game. Doug Ford won that one, at least for now. So we'll see where it goes.
All right.
Thanks for
everybody.
watching. Cheers. Full send.